Welcome back to another video with me, JD. We're going through SuperCoach and Fantasy last minute questions on today, the day of the first round of the year, where we start to get rolling lockouts kicking in. All very exciting stuff, no doubt. What is it? Tigers Blues tonight. The good thing is, for those worrying, you really only have to make a few decisions tonight, and that is around like Gibkiss, who I think everyone should probably have in Supercoach. In Fantasy, I think he's probably a pass. Williams, I think everyone should have in both formats. And then like maybe, I mean, Naismith isn't named, so there's a few questions about him I've already previewed. So you don't, I think just leave him out makes sense to me, and unless he's a laid in or something like that. But even then, I'd probably just leave him out. And Seth Campbell, which I'm sure there'll be some questions about. I know some people will be looking to jump on him and ride an early price rise there, but really you've just got to make decisions around those players. And as long as you've done that, you can then make all your other calls tomorrow once some of those teams have landed. So don't stress out too much tonight. Just make sure you've made those choices. And in Supercoach, whether or not you're going to field Gibkiss is going to be one of those decisions. But that's basically it for today. You don't have to stress out too much in that kind of race between teams dropping at 6:30 and the first game at 7:30, 7:40. It's probably sometime like that. At least East Coast time anyway. I know those watching from South Australia and WA, it'll be time shifted, but I'm sure you're well aware of that. All right. So let's go through these questions. First off, Supercoach Bull. He's all over Twitter if you haven't heard of him before. So my question is rookie related. Phillips, Lazaro, and Campbell are the rookies I'm tossing up on. Would you sacrifice Lazaro in order to grab a Caulfield and Burgess type, stronger job security? Okay. So it's kind of like, if I get rid of Lazaro, I can get Caulfield over Phillips and Burgess over Campbell. I mean, Caulfield over Phillips I like. I think there's like reason to believe that Phillips could have some good scores in him in that Hawks backline. Like they've typically put out some pretty good scorers, but I'd rather start Caulfield over him and downgrade down. The thing I struggle with is how much of a must-have is Lazaro, and that's probably where I'd be watching for team sheets tonight. Like, do they have Phillips in the side? You know, is he ahead of him? Where's he's named is always a bit of a suspect one, but I'm still like, there's a few rookies that I'm definitely waiting for team sheets to get a bit of a read on. And Burgess, I don't know how many questions we'll get about him, but he is an interesting one because his numbers as a forward ruck in the twos last year were pretty good. Like he's got bags of 4 or 5, like multiple 20 plus hit out games. So him coming in as that thrill thought replacement, I think it's a pretty interesting option, but his job security is weaker. Campbell's job security might be okay. All their forwards have returned and he's still on the side, but I do think he's prone to dropping some 20s, 30s, that type of stuff, just given his role. And then Phillips I think is probably okay, but I'd rather have Caulfield, even though Caulfield may be on the fringe as well. That's also one I'm waiting for on teams. Because, for example, if they leave Karmas out, who's been really good, then I think, Caulfield may be a bad game away from being moved out, or if they want to structure up differently where they have a side that can play slightly taller in defense, then that's a challenge. So would I sacrifice Lazaro in order to grab a Caulfield and Burgess type? I mean, I think Caulfield and Burgess is stronger than like a Phillips, Campbell run, but if it's Phillips and Lazaro against Caulfield and Burgess, I'm probably happy with Phillips and Lazaro. So hopefully that answers your question, SC Bull. It's a little bit unclear exactly what the trade-offs are, but I think those are the types of things I've been thinking about. The Duke, another legend on Twitter and big John Newcomb fan. There's a lot of them out there. Wanted to get your thoughts on captaincies this week: VC, Dacos, C Bond, or something a little bit different. So for Supercoach, I think if you're picking up Dacos and Bont, then I think this is the 1-2 that makes the most sense to me, especially if you're playing it safer. In Fantasy, it'll be a little bit different. I mean, I'd still VC Dacos, but yeah. Other options, you've got Port playing West Coast this week, so Butters captaincy could be an option, and if you didn't want to vice captain Dacos, you didn't have Dacos, something like a Bont VC into Butters as the backup could work, especially if you've got like a Livingston loophole. Beyond that, is there anyone I really love? If you're starting Tom Green, I guess Tom Green's the other one you'd consider, and I think he plays before Bont. Let's have a look. Yeah, so you could vice captain Green into something like Bont, and that would make sense as well, or Dacos into Green as another option if you didn't start Bont. So I think like those are probably the ones I'd be looking at. It's Bont, Butters, Dacos, Green are the ones that make the most sense to me, both combination of like upside and safety. All right, pick one for my final rookie spot: Seth Campbell, Jeremy Sharp, Harvey Thomas, Chris Burgess, and Jack Carroll. So if we could be guaranteed job security on all these, and the role that we saw from last week, I think it's probably Carroll. But he started as the sub, and they do still have a couple of players to return in terms of Walsh, which, I mean, TBC on when that'll actually be given his back injury, and Hollins from his cocaine ban. So, could he get pushed out or like at least moved to a non-CBA role, which would hurt his scoring? I think there's like a risk with that with Carroll. So as much as probably has the most upside of everyone in this pack, I think I'd just wait on him and correct if he's still on the side in round 3 and scores well again tonight. So I think, yeah, Carroll's probably the one that interests me the most, but probably the one that I wouldn't start. Of the others, they're all okay. I don't have a preference over any of these. I'd honestly, I'd rather like not start any of them if I'm being honest with you, Pig. Who, by the way, well done on the podcasting debut this year. So I'd rather not start any of these. If I had to pick one, maybe it's Jeremy Sharp. Like, just because I think he's now being undersold a little bit because we haven't really seen him this preseason. But if he gets selected still round 1, then I think he, with his scoring history, mature age, probably the best chance of actually like being a decent rookie. But I have a feeling like this is one of those ones where you've got 5 or 6 decent options all at this price point, and it's going to be very hard for us to reliably pick which one of these will end up doing best, and we'll find that we have to correct to the right one, would be my guess. All right, can you give your take on Lizard Blakey for fantasy? Great matchups for defense, good stepping stone, flick for the bye. Firstly, let's have a look at the Swans run. And I'm looking in SuperCoach, but it's just for the fixture. So Collingwood, which is a good matchup. Don's good matchup. Richmond, good matchup. West Coast, good matchup. Gold Coast, probably going to be a good matchup. Hawks, good matchup. It is a good run for defenders for sure. And the plan would be to flick him off at the bye. So, I mean, I don't like planning to, picking players to flick them off at the bye. I'm not, like, a huge fan of that. I think the struggle I have with Blakey is, so he's priced at, 71 in fantasy. He needs to go at 90. Could he do that? It's definitely possible, but even with large amounts of kick-ins last year, it's not like his scoring was amazing. And did he do well against some of these poorer sides? Like, he didn't crush West Coast, didn't crush Collingwood, didn't do well against Essendon, 95. So, I mean, I think the answer here is probably no. A couple of reasons. Even with the extra opportunity, I'm not sure he'll actually convert it into big scores and the good plus matchups, because it's just not his style. He's not kicking around in defense. They want to use him offensively. And I think there are other players with the buys that I'd rather have in defense than him. And picking him to flick off at the buy means that you're locked into that. So if you're starting Dacos and you've got Blakey and then you have an injury, I don't know, this feels like you go pear-shaped. So if you're really looking for a point of difference, I can see why you'd be interested in Blakey. But even at that range, I think there are going to be better options. So I think this is a no for me. All right. Heidi. So need to fade one of the 450k midfield rookies: Huswaite, McKercher, Sanders, Roberts. So how do you rank them as picks? I think if you're fading one, and that's what's in my current side at the moment with what I've been playing around, it'd be Huswaite. And so Roberts, we saw the roll is good, very good. Kick-ins, that's great. McKercher, that halfback roller North's very good. He's probably getting kick-ins as well. Job security is amazing. Sanders, amazing job security. He's be getting CBAs as well. So really, Huswaite, we saw him get the 4th most CBAs in the last practice game. I think it was just under 50%. behind Warple. It's possible that he could go past those guys, but I'm not sure that it's like guaranteed. And I don't think Sam Mitchell's locked into him either. The big concern is what happens once Day returns in the first month or so, like about 4 weeks. They've got him planned in. So if you only get 2 price rises out of him, and then Day comes back in, and either he gets pushed to a wing and starts scoring much worse, or just gets dropped altogether, that feels really bad. So for Supercoach, I think I lean to fading Huswaite of these 4 just because of kind of medium-term job security, where I don't think the risk is as big for any of the others. Nor is his role as good as Roberts, plus Roberts is cheaper, and he's already got a price, like a score factored in. So yeah, I'd go Huswaite 4th. If I had to pick 1/3 at the moment, it's probably McKercher just because of price, and then Sanders 1, Roberts 2, I think is how I'd rate them. Is it bad that I think Tanner Brun is a better pick than Wines? Don't really see the appeal of picking Ollie despite the past history. I think Crouch is a better pick for 30k more, as he seems to have more of that dog. Would you almost pick Brun for the upside in his young age? Thank you, Oz Sam. I mean, this cuts both ways because, you know, with the young age, obviously he's got upside potentially that we haven't seen, but also Ollie has history that we have seen. So we have seen that he can get to those numbers required for him to be a worthwhile pick, where we haven't seen it with Brun. And last year he was managed too much with his time on ground, as well as just general use. So he should have more opportunity this year, especially with Guthrie out for the first 10 to 12 weeks. But I think Wine is a surer thing. We saw him get the number 1 CBA role, or at least he's going to be in the top 3 rotations for that Port side that is very good. He's got a great reason for why his price is depleted, which is 2 years of injury history and being played out of role. And at his best, we've seen him be more like score more than enough to return value at his price. I don't think he'll end up being a keeper, but yeah, a lot of value in there. Brun goes against something that like I try not to do, which is pick players for like natural progression. And I feel like if I knew he was getting more time on ground and more CBAs this year, it wouldn't just be natural progression. It'd be an improvement in his role. But I don't really know that to be the case with the Cats. Like, it's just hard for me to predict what they're going to do with their midfield, how they're going to adjust things, who's even going to be in their best 22. So there's a chance that Brun does end up better than Wines. But I think if I just look at like the facts as I kind of lay them out, I see more of a clear path for Wines to end up being a worthwhile pick and, you know, potentially burning me less. You know, on top of that, I think Cats are going backwards this year. Port's opening run for the first like 10 weeks is an absolute joke. So I like Wines considerably more than Brun. I haven't really considered Brun at all, but you know, if you don't feel that way, then go with your gut. Brutal expectations. Fantasy question: Bonner plus 2 mid, 2 forward rookies, or Fife, C-Mac, or Sardis plus 3 mids and 1 forward rookie. So I guess it depends on what you mean by forward rookies here, because if the forward rookies include Sexton and Reed, then I'd want those 2 on field. If you're not including Sexton, if he's, you know, upper price range, which you definitely could see it that way, and the 1 forward rookie is Reed, then I prefer that option. So I'd go the 3 midfielders, because I think the midfield options in McKercher, Sanders, Roberts are better than options after Reed. But if Reed's that 1 forward rookie, then I'd be going that way. But yeah, yep. So it's difficult though, because I like both. I like Bonner more than I like Fife, C-Mac, and Sardis. But yeah, I think I'd still base my teams around what the rookie structure is. So if the 2 forward rookies are Sexton and Reed, go the Bonner plus that route. If the 1 forward rookie is both Sexton and Reed, then I'm happy for you to go the other path. I'm still debating myself between Fife, C-Mac, and Sardis. I've been tossing up mainly between Fife and C-Mac as to who gets that final spot in my AF side. But those are probably what I consider there, and it just comes down to how you're factoring Sexton into that list. But I would have Reed F6. That'd be my target. Another option is downgrade Goer to Cherry to have Bonner plus 5, plus 2 mid, 1 forward rookie. I mean, that's my side at the moment, I believe. So Harley Reid F6. I've got two rookies on field, and then Cherry over Grundy. So that's what I've done. I'd be hard for me to recommend against the thing that I've done. Haven't seen much talk about Yo's tough early schedule, Port, GWS, Dogs, and Sydney. Is he priced low enough that we shouldn't be too concerned? In fantasy, yes, I wouldn't worry about this at all. In SuperCoach, maybe more of a valid concern of does this limit his potential upside, especially given that he's priced fairly expensively? And I think the answer is yes. There's not anyone else really in that price point though for SuperCoach. So if your structure works best with him at D4 or D3 or wherever you're putting him, I wouldn't worry about the fixture too much. He's still going to be lead or second in their CBA mix. I think as long as he's fit, he's going to put up good points. And if he goes well through that early part and then gets into an easier fixture, should be okay. I mean, and while I think a lot of those games are losses, we saw GWS concede 130 to Dacos. We saw the Swans give up points to all the D's mids. Dogs, you can usually score against as well. Port's maybe the more concerning one, given that they play a lower stoppage game than some of the others on that list. So I wouldn't be too concerned about it, but I think it's a fair challenge. It's not ideal. There's definitely players with better schedules to start the year than Yo. How many round 0 players in your starting 22 is too many? I have 8 at the moment. So I think this comes back to what my philosophy's always been. As long as you see the players as value, then I'm okay with starting as many as you want, as long as it doesn't completely kill you in a particular buy or anything like that. So I'm going to have to try and remember what the buys are off the top of my head. You've got Gold Coast and GWS sharing one, and you've got, which is round 3, you've got Swans and Pies sharing one, and then it's D's and Tigers sharing the last one. I think those are the 3 ones that we need to consider, and I'm guessing you don't really have... you've got a couple of Blues players. So just for that Blues buy, not a problem whatsoever. It's one of each, and they're rookies and they're value players. You wouldn't be fielding Carroll anyway, so the fact he opens a loop is fine. And similarly with Williams, if you're looping Gibkiss and Reed, you should be able to cover that score pretty easy. The GWS Gold Coast one, I think that's obviously more of a concern because you've got 3 of those in your forward line, and you haven't got DPP from what I can see to actually get Flanders into that midfield. So that's where if you've got Wilson in that midfield bench rather than a Carroll, you can open that DPP up to help with that buy a little bit. So I think you're hurting yourself a little bit, but I assume that this is going to be a pretty common combination for Flanders pickers because I think Cadman and Sexton are both good picks and rookie base. So if you really are sold on Flanders, you don't want Heaney, you don't want Luke Jackson in that spot, then I think it's okay, but it's a little bit of a disadvantage. And Green, if you don't like, for example, LDU or whoever else at that 620 spot, then I think Green's probably the best option. You just have to bite the bullet on the buy. But he does have, round 3 and then round 12? So that, or 11, I think it is. It must be round 12 as the first one, right? Anyway, whatever. He's got 2 early buys, which means that you're going to have 2 games to be fielding rookies where others will be fielding a premium. So that could be 100 points gap just off that over those 2 weeks, which over the first 12 weeks of the season is a bit under 10 points per game coming off Green's average. And then I assume a lot of people will trade into Green off his buy. So you really have to believe that he's going to out average what he's priced at by a fair bit, go into that 120s range, I would say, to end up being really worthwhile picking over those others. But if you don't like them, then go for it. But I think Green I struggle to see as being that, having as much value as some of the others. And then the last one is that we worry about. Swans, Collingwood. You've got 1 on each line. I'm not worried about that at all. I think that's completely fine. And then D's, Tigers, Howes and Gibkiss. There's a chance one of them goes, or you just field Reed. It's not a big deal. And then Gone, which I think a lot of people are going to have. Yeah, really, I think the only question is how much do you like Flanders enough to wear him on that buy with Sexton and Cadman? And then do you like Green enough that you're happy to wear the 2 early buys, or dislike all the other options enough that you're happy to wear those 2 early buys? But I don't think it's this. I don't look at that and go, it's too many. A lot of them end up being rookies and, very coverable. So, yeah. Blair, Neil Bullen, only the one CBA in round 0. Do we still reckon he can average 100 plus with Curry back? Who is this we? I never thought he could average 100 plus. So, no, I'm out on Neil Bullen for sure. Fraser, currently one rookie, probably Howes, then Williams, then Yo, D4 to D6, and 3 mid rookies in Sanders, Huswaite, McKercher, and Roberts, one on bench. Or Yo down to another rookie and field 2 defenders, maybe Caulfield and Lazaro up to M Crouch in mids. So it's unclear whether this is a SuperCoach or fantasy question. I'm going to assume SuperCoach because if it's a fantasy question, I would say like Yo is basically must-have territory. For SuperCoach, so this is probably what I've been playing around with most because I had Yo D4, no Caulfield, and then Huswaite in my midfield. And I've since got off Huswaite, got Caulfield, and taken Yo off the field. I probably should just show you that. So like I used to have Yo in here and no Caulfield, and I had Huswaite on my field and no Steele, and I've just swapped those around. I still don't know if that's the right option, but that's what I've been playing with. So, and I still really like Yo as an option. I feel bad taking him out of my side if I'm being perfectly honest, because I've been a big proponent of his all preseason. Still got him in fantasy, still got him in Bolter, but in SuperCoach he's currently not in. So I guess I'd probably recommend do what I'm doing. So Yo down to another rookie and field 2 defenders, and then Lazar up to M Crouch and mids is probably what I'd recommend. Would you prefer starting Maxi Gawn and Aaron Cadman or going with Luke Jackson and Lazaro? I'd rather Gawn and Cadman in both formats. I think if you believe that Trek's going to be back in 4 weeks, then I don't think that's enough time to make starting Luke Jackson worthwhile. Ideally, if you're going with Jackson, I want to trade him after the round 6 bye for either Gawn or English. Yep, I think that'd be ideal. But I think I'd rather just start Gawn. Teams feel good, but Bont Yo or Libber and Sheasel? Bont Yo for me for SuperCoach, I assume this is, because I don't think Libber's really a consideration in fantasy. So I'm going Bont Yo. How viable is Decam, Grundy, Livingston round 3, and then Jackson up forward to cover the round 5 bye, taking advantage of Decam's round 0 score, frees up 80k going from Gawn to Decam. So I think the problem that you're going to run into, well, there's 2 questions here. One, like, is Decam a good pick? And then 2, like, bye considerations. Because Grundy and Decam have that bye, so even if you have Jackson being able to move up to cover, you're still taking a donut in that spot. So it's not ideal that you run both of them on the same bye. And then can Decam be a premium? And I think this really comes down to like, so I don't think he'll be a premium. Could he return enough money? Like, I'd rather take Gawn because it's a different bye. Jackson can cover both of them. And I think he's more likely to be top 3 or like thereabouts. Cameron would need Cox to be dropped and for them to run him as like 80-90% ruck time, which I don't think they're going to do. So, yeah, if Cox is dropped, then maybe you can go your Decam route, but just it's risky because you locking in a 0 on field during that bye, even though you're picking Jackson, and I think there's a good chance that you may need to trade Jackson before then if Cameron's back. Fantasy question, Gawn and Roberts on field with 3 mid-rooks, or Cherry and Bonner with 2 mid-rooks? So, I mean, I've done the second, so I guess I'd recommend that, but either's fine. Separately, thanks for your content this preseason. Really enjoyed insights. Oh, thank you, Taylor. Appreciate it. Thanks for saying. Abs, 2 quick questions for SuperCoach. Do you think Max Gawn is still the best ruckman to start with? And does chopping your M9 in McKercher or Huswaite down to a cheaper rookie to get Took Miller up to LD work? Or should we not mess around with cash gen? So, do I think Max Gawn's still the best ruckman to start? It's probably Grundy now, but then I still have Gawn just ahead of Cherry in SuperCoach. If going Cherry unlocks something for your team that you really like, then I'm comfortable with doing that. But yeah, I've got these split in format. So in fantasy, I've got Cherry. In SuperCoach, I've got Gawn. And the reason why is just because in SuperCoach, I think Gawn can be close to the top 2 or 3. Where I think in fantasy, there's almost no way he goes better than Marshall or English that I'll end up having to trade to. So I'd just go for the higher cash gen option in Cherry. All right, and then does chopping your M9 and McKercher or Huswaite down to a cheaper option to get Miller to LDU work? So I guess it depends on who the cheaper option is that you're going down to. If it's a really sketchy rookie, then I think it doesn't work, and I wouldn't mess with the cash gen. And in particular, I probably wouldn't get off McKercher. So could you go Huswaite down to like a Sharp or something like that? I think so, just because I'm off Huswaite. Like if you don't have Cadman in your forward line, I'd probably rather have Cadman than Huswaite as it stands right now, and see how he goes over the next couple of weeks. And then yeah, I'd get in like an LDU over Miller, especially given Miller's bye. Yeah. Very tragic. So Marshall will go on and keep the 70k in the bank. I love the rest of my team, and I think it may be worthwhile getting Marshall. Thoughts? So 70k difference. That must mean this is a SuperCoach question, because I think the gap is much larger in fantasy. There's a lot of people that are good coaches in Discord that I've spoken to that are on Marshall. I can see the reason why English regresses and Marshall ends up being the R1 this year. So being able to start him would be great. And if you do have the extra cash, then going him over Gorn, especially with Gorn having the bye, not looking good in the first game, I can see why people are doing it. To be honest, I haven't really entertained it that much. So I would probably go Gorn and keep the 70k. And then just use it to jump on options over these next couple of weeks as we see who ends up being the better and worse picks. Niblo, for fantasy, Cherry Jackson with the best 200k rookie on the bench, or Gorn McKenzie with Dempsey on the bench. Don't love these because I don't really want Jackson. Because like of these, I've kind of got like Cherry, McKenzie, and then the best rookie on the bench is like how I would typically go this. So if I had to pick between these, I'd probably go Cherry Jackson with the best 200k rookie on bench. Just because with the unlimited trade format, Jackson being able to like trade him out, I think is fine, and it gives you cover for Gorn at least. Sorry, for Grundy at least. So yeah, I think I go Jackson. All right, JD, do you think it's feasible to run all of Crouch, Wines, Martin, and only have Bont and Butters? For example, related to the question, would you rather start Crouch or Flanders? Already have Heaney, same rookies fielded with either. So I would. So firstly, I think the answer to your first question is yes. You can have Crouch, Wines, Martin, and only Bont or Butters. If you see all those three value guys as being able to deliver you averages for SuperCoach in the 100s, then I think you probably should be starting all of them. I think that's a really good choice. And like, yeah, I've got no problem starting it, especially if you don't like the 600k guys. And I think there's reasons not to be in love with LDU or Butters, just given preseason injuries, that type of stuff. Would you rather start Crouch or Flanders? Already have Heaney. So I would rather have Crouch than Flanders, I think, just because of that bye. Tricky one, definitely a tricky one. But given that I've got Sexton and Cadman in my forward line, and I'd recommend others have the same rookies, then I think you are going down one on field by starting Flanders as well. So I'd rather not start Flanders and trade into him than start him. Thoughts on starting Naismith over a loop, considering we'll have loopholes to use anyway, and there's a high chance he plays during the year. So this will be SuperCoach as well, because his price is prohibitive in fantasy. So I definitely think you can if the money works, and if you're not starting Jackson, because if you're starting Jackson, you should have a loophole. I think you could still start Naismith. I worry that he's still like 2 games away from actually returning any money, and probably 3 or 4 away from returning meaningful money. So what you really need is not like Nankervis to be rested a week. You need Nankervis to be injured again. So is he more likely to end up in a favorable situation than any other ruck? It's probably hard to say. Maybe slightly, just because Nank's still dealing with it. But I think I'm probably more likely to go the loophole if we don't have playing rucks this round. But we might get like a Reedy or something like that, who I'd consider starting. Dilemma between Luke Jackson and Carroll, or Flanders and Lazaro. I'd rather go Flanders and Lazaro. In SuperCoach, I don't like Jackson as an option. But if you think it'll be 5 to 6, then you should go Jackson, I think. He's trained all season forward, and there's a chance Reedy will come in. I think we'll know on Friday at 5 p.m. Right? I assume they play the Saturday game because it's Freo. We'll know before your team locks out if how do I get out of the panel? Interesting. This must be a downside of the mod that it's lost a way for me to kill this sidebar. If I go, see, oh, okay, it's just the X has gone missing. Okay, so yeah, I mean, yeah, they play last game on Sunday, but we'll know whether he's named or not by Friday 5 p.m. So I think you can, if you think if you honestly think Darcy's more at like 5 to 6 and Reedy won't play, then you probably should go Jackson. What's your read on Berry's job security? I mean, this is a question you better asking George than me. I don't know. I mean, like, you've got Schoenberg who's out for a reasonable period of time. The only other person I can think of that has to come back for the Crom is Sloan, which I think they've said is like 2 to 3 weeks or something like that with his detached retina. He's training with glassware and all this type of stuff. So I think many Crows fans would be hoping that Sloan doesn't come back in, but coaches seem to love those elder types, and if Berry's not playing well, maybe there's a chance Sloan comes in and play that role as well. I just think the worry is that he's playing half forward and may not get that much time on ball, so I don't really like him as a pick. It's someone I'd rather correct to than start, because I think while the pick could work, it's a low chance. Josh Kelly, too absurd. I mean, I think I'd just rather have Tom Green over Kelly. So if you're going to pick a GWS player, I'd just pick Green. I don't know how different their prices are. Green 622, Kelly is 560. I mean, it's like 60k, so it's definitely cheaper. But yeah, I'd rather just go Green. Fantasy Butters and Bonner plus 122k, or Crouch and Wines. Already have Martin and Eamon in both options. Butters can be anyone from merit down if there's better options. So I mean, I'd be picking Butters and from like the list of merit down. So I think you've got the right premium there for me anyway. Which of these would I rather have? I like both options. So if Butters is your M1 or M2, I think you probably go that way just to secure up your midfield a little bit. But yeah, Crouch and Wine's good. I think I'd go Butters and Bonner. But yeah, good question. You could go either way on this, honestly. I don't think there's anything wrong with running Crouch, Wines, Martin, and Amon. I think you can run all four. But there's a risk of who do you go to if one of them doesn't work? I guess you just go down to Bonner, but then would you have been upset that you didn't start Butters? I like all my picks, but end up with a bit of cash left over, 190k. That allows me to go Butters to Bont. Is Bont really a bad idea? Struggling to find somewhere else to put that money into that I like for AFL Fantasy. I think Bont is a bad idea for Fantasy. I think he's going to go backwards in cash a fair bit. So I personally don't like it. I would maybe just hold the cash if you really don't have anywhere else to put it into. Yeah, because not enough to get a bench option to Cherry, for example. So yeah, I think you just hold it. People are too hesitant to spend money, and a lot of people would say 190k is too much. But if you actually love your team, I don't think there's a problem with sitting on that because the reality is you're going to use it in the first round or two anyway as you fix stuff up and pick up options that you didn't spot. So I don't think it's that bad. It only goes wasted for one round, and if you think you've nailed the right side, then it may be that actually putting money into players hurts you rather than helps. One last dilemma for 2024: Caulfield and Fife, who would sit in M6, or Buderick and Cadman. So format probably matters, because for SuperCoach, I think this is Caulfield and Fife. For fantasy, is there any way this is a fantasy question? It could be. I think it's still Caulfield and Fife in both formats. I think Buderick, He could be good. We just haven't seen enough. It's been too inconsistent, and last week really wasn't a good litmus test. So I think this is Caulfield and 5 for me. Thoughts on Cherry R3 in fantasy? Comes back to like that other question we just had, Fitch, with the money, where if you've got a team that you love and Cherry, you happen to end up with the 380k to get Cherry R3, I think it's fine. I have not landed on a team like that in a while where I'm like, oh, I love it and I have that much money to park Cherry there. If Goer goes big, could I see myself correcting like an 800k guy? You know, someone like a Whitfield after price rise to Goer and then benching Cherry. Like, it could definitely happen in my side. But so it's fine. I think it's fine. If you love your team and you've got the money to go Cherry R3, do it. I wouldn't force it though. It's not like a must-have or a amazing way to structure up or anything like that. Anthony Wallace, Jackson or Heaney, can't build a team I like with both. With 40 traits, so Supercoach question. I'm not concerned with the return of Darcy. I'd go Heaney. I am concerned with the return of Darcy, though. If you weren't concerned with the return of Darcy, Jackson's probably better because no buy. But yeah, I think you can go either way. May have missed it. Did you revisit your structure video where you had the field blocked in red, black, and rookies, assuming there's been something that actually changes that info? So you are right, Rob. It does. So this is... Oh, picked a great frame to pause on there. The video that I did looking at, like, here's kind of how I'm thinking about the structure and where my question marks are. Having a look at this again, there's one spot in particular that's changed for me, which is whether or not 4 premiums is right or whether it's now 3 premiums, with the reason being that we actually got an additional rookie here in-house that I think now you have 4 really good options in Reed, Gibkiss, Howes, Caulfield. And there's actually a chance that like a Phillips or a Pink ends up being pretty good as well, even a Burgoyne. So I don't mind the 4 rookies and then 3 premium defenders. And this slot, I think, is just Zach Williams now. Like, it's always Zach Williams. So this is kind of locked in as a mid-pricer. This is more the question mark of, is it a premium or is it a rookie? So if you go rookie, where does that free up money? I think one part of that is in the forward line. So we are going 1 premium, which I guess is like this red mark still, like, but I think 1 premium's locked in here, whether it's Heaney, Flanders, or Jackson. That's kind of locked in, and the question mark is then whether you run an extra rookie on field or an extra mid-pricer is probably what this question more is for people now. In the midfield, I think, it's still 2 or 3 premiums, which is the question mark, and then somewhere between 2 and 4 mid-prices feels about right, and then you want at least 2 rookies on field, but it could be a third. So I think the rest of this is all kind of right. This question mark was, I think, still valid. So like the 1 premium now is probably, or it's a mid-price, depending on how you classify it, is Grundy, I'd say, is the one that's locked in. But then on this question mark, it could be Cherry, Goer, Marshall, as we've kind of discussed still. So yeah, this is still like roughly right as a structure. But yeah, the big one here is definitely whether or not this is 4 premiums or 3 premiums, rather than like it being potentially 4 or 5. And then that changes your forward line to have an extra primo in there. So good question, good callback. Bish and Cripps, Jordan Clark and Bonner, or Caulfield and Amon for fantasy? I would be going the Caulfield and Amon path, I think. But I've got Bonner and Amon on my side, so hard to pick. I don't have a good enough read on Clark for me to confidently pick him. Who are you picking between Heaney and Crouch? I guess in my side it's Heaney at the moment, but no Flanders. So, you know, I've got like Heaney over Flanders. But I would go Crouch over like a second forward option. Who's your R3 with Naismith out? In Supercoach, it's currently Livingston, just the 1 on 2K loophole from West Coast. In Fantasy, it's Barnett. They're both ruck forward West Coast guys. I think the difference is that Barnett's an extra 20k in Supercoach. Pick one not to be in the team. Gibkiss, Reed, Howes, or Caulfield. It's probably Caulfield out for me, but there's a chance that he ends up better than at least one of those 3 defenders. So I'd start with Caulfield out and then correct him if you need to. I also think that he's probably got the worst job security of the 4 at the moment. AF, Dacos, Cherry, McKenzie, or Caulfield, Gawn, McKenzie. Option 1 is much more like my side, so I'd be going Dacos, Cherry, McKenzie. Fantasy Wines and Fife, 4 rooks on field, or Rosie and Lazaro, 3 rooks on field. Thoughts? And thoughts on Dawson as M1. So I don't like Dawson as a pick in any format, so I'm off that, please. And I would rather have Wines and Fife and 4 rooks on field than Rosie and Lazaro on 3. Supercoach last minute structure I can't decide on. Premium midfielder in Butters, Sarong, Roberts bench, Housley 6. Premium defender, Houston or Stewart with Roberts and M8, House on bench. I like option 1. I'd be going like Butters, and I think I prefer Butters to Houston or Stewart. So I think that's how I'd go. It's annoying that you have like one of your midfielders on bench and have to play an extra defender rookie on field for sure, but I think this overall ends up being stronger. Between Fife and Lions or Flanders and rookie, Carroll, where Campbell tier. That is not a good tier of rookie. It's not a rookie tier I want to be in. But do I like Lions? Also, no. So I'm probably going in that mix. I would go Flanders and then probably Campbell of those 3 rookies. Bonner in Supercoach. You can. He's in my fantasy side. I think my Supercoach sides work better without him in it, but I definitely think you could look at him as an option. The reality is, well, if he pops me in fantasy, I probably should have picked him in Supercoach. Fantasy, LDU or Steel. So I'm on LDU over Steel. I've seen there's a lot of Steel truthers, and I'm not sure if it's real or not. Like, I think it's very possibly goes back to 105. I don't know if he goes 110 plus, and I think LDU does have 110 upside in him. That might be too optimistic. Might be. But he's done it for stretches. So I'm slightly LDU ahead of Steel, but I can see wanting to go the other way. Emma with a great little Discord meme there. And then, do you think we can go Jackson over Gawn? No, I don't. Not unless Darcy's out like 8 weeks. Thoughts on George Hewitt in fantasy with the built-in 170k price tag? Yeah, so tricky one because he's got a bye in a week, and then once again, it's a bit like what I was saying with Carroll. You've then got some of these other players returning that could change roles, and if Walsh is back, he becomes a much worse pick. So if we had confirmation Walsh was going in for surgery, then I think Hewitt is a lot more interesting, but I just think that we've got other options in the midfield that I like more. Wines, Eamon, Martin, Crouch, that I'd rather start basically any of those over Hewitt. In other years, I'd be very interested in Hewitt. And I think that's it. I think we hit the list, unless there's some new ones in here. There is. All right, so dilemma between Luke Jackson and Seth Campbell, Carroll, Flanders, and Lazaro. Upside for Jackson for me is, even though they say Darcy 3-4. Oh wait, I know I already read this one. Okay, so it popped up even though it was new. All right, and we got to the Berry Shop security one. All right, so I think that is the Q&A video done. Hopefully, I think I answered everyone's questions. So hopefully you're okay with the answer. If you have any follow-up, hit me up in below. Otherwise, good luck tonight. As I said at the top of this, please don't stress about your side too much. You've really only got 3 or 4 decisions on players to make. Gibkiss, Williams, Campbell, and Carroll really is kind of outside rookies. But beyond that, not a ton to stress about. So just lock in those decisions and then fiddle with your side tomorrow. Don't panic too much tonight. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.